Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season finale, or potentially series finale, of Y the Last Man. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode. It was a great season finale all around. I hope it turns out not to be the series finale, but we'll get to all of that at the very end. But jumping into a lot of the really interesting things this episode, we have the Amazons checking out, where Yorick, 355 and Allison are staying with all the prisoners. And so I was like, okay, I'm so curious to see, because I know it's like, oh, this collision course is going to happen. It's only a matter of time, but they're stacking it out a little bit. But obviously it's more so a celebration, because Nora wants to kind of go in there quietly, but Roxanne's like, screw that. You need to stop having, you need to have a little bit more fun. Saying that, Nora's got like a stick up her ass. It's like, nah, cut loose a little bit more, like have fun. And obviously it's interesting because they end up staying at that pool, and some people give, them some information about the, a regiment going to the Pentagon and killing the president, which they killed a president, not Hero's mom, but she thinks her mom is going. And I think for Hero, it's that combination of just like, all the things left unsaid, all the things that were said, no opportunities to really apologize. It's like her and her family, in particular her and her mom, are constantly stuck in like, they had their issues, and now it's like, my mom's gone and I'll never have an opportunity to kind of, fix things as they are. It's just like, because she spent so much time avoiding her mom, which speaks volumes of like, right, things, who knows what things would have been like, if Hero had gone to the Pentagon, like, to see her mom when Sam wanted to, or Nora wanted to go. Like, they could both be dead right now, but either way, it's still, they're not really thinking about that. I mean, maybe Nora is, but it's more so like on Hero, it's just like, maybe things could have been different. Maybe I could have made good with my mom. Like, we could have bonded over the fact is that like my dad's going, my brother's going, like at least we had each other. And the only now it's also like, at least she knew my mom's out there somewhere in the world. We might not be tight, but at least I know she's out there. Now in this very moment, for Hero, it's like, I'm the only one, especially when the episode cuts back and forth between present day and I guess like a very monumentous moment with their family where they're out. It's just like, obviously her issues with Yorick come out, where it's just like him talking about like his next performance, and Beth is helping him explain it, but she's like, oh, it's not done, it needs some work. He's like, wait, you think it actually needs some work? He's like, right, I shouldn't say anything, it's too early. But it was basically about the different cuffs and what each one representing a part of his family, like his mom, his dad. And then Hero's joking like, oh, what about me? He's like, all right, my sister's a paramedic. She's like, no, I'm kidding, I don't want to be a chain that holds you down. He's like, no, it's not like that. It's like, oh yeah, like, and then she jokes about him being the cis white male whose mom is a fucking congressman, and it's just like, the table gets dead quiet, and she's like, what? It was a joke. What? Especially because of that particular dinner is like when she exposed her dad, because it's like, oh, he's on his phone the entire time. It's like, who are you texting? Because she had been open about like, oh yeah, I'm dating, so his name's Mike and he's married. Oh, it's like, nah, because her mom tried to be like, oh, are they getting, it's like, no, marriage still going on strong, even having a baby. It's like, because she just was tired of like the BS of like us acting like we're a great family, like everything's okay when everything sucks. Dad's over here having an affair. You have the audacity to like call me out from it, because it's like, I guess she was kind of making it seem like Jennifer probably knew about the affair, was just acting like everything was normal, like pretending like we're just one happy family. Like, York was probably in the dark about it, sure, but it's like she kind of aired the family's laundry, because it's like, right, I get hip, I'm being called out. You're even telling me like, oh, I should end this affair I'm having. Is like, what about you? Like, you're doing the exact same thing and you got the nerve to judge me? And mom just sitting there like everything's okay. Her mom whispers something in her ear, but it's most likely in the aftermath. Like, it's what she had told Sam, that her mom talked about her like being self-destructive and that she kind of ruins basically everything. So I think in that moment her mom said that. But it is a situation of like, yeah, it seemed like her mom did know. And it's just like, because she did, but it's also like she's a congresswoman, so she has to keep everything above board. And it's just like, that was probably like, for all we know, that might have been the last time their entire family was together. So that's probably why they also showcased that, because of that. And I think that in itself is why she clicked so much with the Amazons, with even Roxanne, because the whole thing was about being yourself, not being confined to the restraints of what people want you to be. She could never just be herself and like not escape her family's judgment. At the very least with the Amazons, she could be her without there being any pushback. She could be herself without, any judgment, and I think that everyone around her accepted her for who she was. And Nora ended up kind of, talking to her, and it talked about the fact is that she actually changed her name. We ended up finding out in the episode, because I was like, where does Victoria come into place, the title of the episode? That's Nora's real name. She changed it because she hated it so much. Because obviously trying to make Hero feel at least a little bit better about the mom situation. It's like, right, I didn't go along. Like, she had talked about it a little bit before about her circumstances with her mom, but now it's just kind of like, right, like, that she didn't get along with her mom. She even talked about the fact is that she's actually the one that vetted Jennifer when Jennifer was kind of brought up to be a congressperson. And it's like, she's like, oh, really? And it's like, yeah, like, we had to check and see if there were any skeletons in the closet or any issues, some liabilities. And it's like, my mom said it was me, didn't it? And it's like, she's like, yeah, I got grilled for like 9 hours. York got like a 30-minute phone call. So kind of just showing you the differences of like, right, in York's eye, he wasn't that much of, he wasn't much of an issue for the family, but Hero was kind of the screw up and the constant issue. So even then, it's kind of like in the aftermath. I think it's just everything Nora was trying to say was just kind of alleviate her a little bit more, like, having someone else to talk to about what she's going through, because no one else there knows about her mom and her situation and her circumstances, what she went through. But Roxanne's like, oh, we're supposed to be partying it up and celebrating, like, you two are over here mourning. And obviously, like, you have Nora being like, I should just get drunk. Obviously, she wakes up to Max having her first period. So it's like, oh, you're a woman now. And it's like, oh, what does that even mean? It's like, I don't know. It's just what my mom said to me the first time it happened. But she's like, despite everything, I want you to know I love you and I'm sorry. And she ends up giving Mac her wedding ring because she's like, I want you to keep this as a reminder of your dad. Like, I still miss your dad and your brother. We always will. But the fact of the matter is there comes a time where we have to, it's like, I want you to be brave and strong. So she wanted to get rid of it. So it's just kind of like, so she can just finally like be ready to kind of move on. And it's like, at the very least, you can be a reminder by keeping them kind of near you. Let this be a reminder of them, but also a reminder to move forward. It's like, oh, you sound like Roxanne. She's like, no, Roxanne sounds like me. So I thought that was kind of a very interesting and important distinction. But other matters that were taking place is obviously the Jennifer and Beth situation. Beth being like, oh, Jennifer, you need to shave your head because we can't let anyone see who you are. But it's like, right, finding out, like, yeah, that shit show back at the Pentagon and everything. And just like, for her, she's laughing because it's like, it's like, I forgot how they got on a conversation about how everything worked back there. And she brings up the fact is, oh, the system's broken. She's like, oh, that little shit show, that was your plan. Like, the fact is that, but she's like, yeah, the world outside is different. It's not the same. You were basically stuck in your ivory towers. So you haven't had to really struggle and live the way other people have. So you haven't really seen how different the world is. So it's easy to have your judgments about what I've done and what I've been a part of when you haven't been a part of, like, the way the world. Because it's like, right, we were at the whole point was like at the Pentagon, we were dealing with stuff that you weren't even aware of. But it's like, yeah, you had the inside perspective. I have the outside perspective of actually seeing the world from the ground level. You were in your hideaway. Yeah, you were dealing with stuff, but you weren't dealing with the actual realities. And like, the system's broken. It always was. But even in this case, it needs to be destroyed so that the world can essentially be reborn. But now she's asking where Yorick is. It's like, I don't know. And it's like, we need to find him, which ties in, interestingly enough, with Kimberly having a dream about, like, she hears Yorick and she starts lactating. And so she sets her mind on, like, I want to find Yorick. It's about the future of humanity because, like, right, she wants to find Yorick so she herself can get pregnant, because I think she wants to be the Eve of this situation. It's like, he can be the Adam to my Eve. The fact of the matter is, like, he can be the repopulation of the rest of the world, but at least with her, it's like, I mean, she's got to fill the void since losing her sons. It's like this, I mean, she's lost her mom now. She's all that she has left is this. She doesn't even have Regina anymore to kind of at least, like, let that be the focus. I mean, it was all going to end with her getting back to York. I mean, he's the prized possession. So, but the fact is that she wants to get impregnated by him just so, like, for one, she wants to be a mom again. But two, if you can become the new Eve, the mother of everything, like, if she can be the first one to get pregnant, I can be the first to help repopulate this world. That fact is, that will kind of feel that ambitious side of her of just kind of being big and important. So, like, I think it all encapsulates that. And obviously Christine could also be important because it's like, right, you're the next, like, you're going to have the first, like, natural born baby of this situation outside of, like, the York situation. So, like, Christine's going to be heralded in her own way. So, yeah, like, you know, to be fair, Kimberly's also, like, I think if Christine ever, like, screws her over after the baby's born, it's like, whatever. But all I care about is protecting that baby. So as long as you got that baby inside you, very similar to another situation of like, oh, you can't die yet because you're pregnant with a baby. I don't want to reference what specific thing I'm referencing, but if you know what I'm referencing, you know what I'm referencing. I don't want to get into spoiler territory for something that if no one hasn't caught up to this show. To put in perspective, it's a big revelation that comes up in the season 2 finale of a certain show. So we kind of leave it at, I believe that was the season 2 finale where that information got dropped, whatever the case may be. So that was kind of a nice, like, a little interesting add in with that. Like, you know, that was the only angle of, like, Kimberly and Christine this episode was that little element there. So I thought that was fascinating. Back with 355 in them, it's interesting that she wakes up in the middle of a street because it's still happening yet again. And, you know, I love that Allison's like, oh, like, what happened? Like, do you want me to help you? Like, it's like, oh, you could tie yourself up. She's like, no. And she's like, no, I didn't mean for it to sound like, it's like, no, I've tried it before. I am apparently a very good, escape artist in my sleep. It's like, what helps? It's like, well, she's like, I tied a 10-pound bag of a sandbag to me and I slept like a baby. So, I do appreciate that later on Allison is that said sandbag. It's not a sandbag, but like you have 355 being like, no, it's nice. And it's like, yo, happening a lot faster. And like Allison doesn't want to admit, but it's like, you know, like obviously she wants to do it because she's like has a big old crush on 355. But obviously, like Sarah, well, I keep going with Sarah because, you know, that's where we got first introduced her as that. But 355 wants to leave tomorrow. It's like, right, they're going to give us some ATVs. But obviously, York doesn't want to leave because it's nice here. Like, it's like, oh, we could be safe here. At the very least, until we get in contact with my mom again. I even love that he compared 355 to his mom. It's like, no, you're kind of like my mom. She's like, I'm not your mother. He's like, no, I was joking. It's like, no, but I think certain aspects of your personalities, he was just trying to imply that, like, his mom and 355 have a similar personality. There was actually a really interesting conversation between Yorick and Sonia, like, later that night or whatever, because he did kind of say something that kind of offended Allison earlier, because he was like, right, like, even if we make it to San Francisco, do you think, like, Allison, yeah, she's super smart, but do you think she could actually fix all this? And even later on, when talking to Allison, it's like, there's no guarantee that you can. Like, it's a lot to ask even one person, even if that person is a smart person, which is like, I didn't say I was the smartest person in the world, but 355 is like, yeah, but you're definitely on that top list of smart people in this world, so. But it is like, yeah, but at the very least, we have an opportunity, so who knows if it's going to be successful, if it all worked out, but at the very least, we have to try, right? You know, they have the opportunity, and this is about, you know, especially because Allison is saying that they're basically in a state where, like, a state of just, like, the state of nature in itself, that, like, certain species are dying out because without the male side of the species. So, like, the longer they wait, the less time it is potentially to save a lot of species that are just dying out, you know? So, I mean, eventually, the same thing can't be said for the human species, but, like, other, like, animal species is kind of what she was referencing. So I thought that was interesting. But the thing I was talking about with Sonya I thought was so fascinating is because, well, basically, Yorick, she was saying, like, you have a very certain perception of time, that basically there's just, like, it's a straight line, that it's linear, that, like, oh, there's just, like, everything leads to a certain point where she doesn't want to believe that, because she's actually, like, it's depressing, because she's like, the thing that she did that she wishes she could take back is she killed someone. Now, she didn't really go into the circumstances of it, but basically, if life is linear, it's just simply, this is life before I killed someone, this is life after. But she wants to believe that life is a scatter shot, that everything, like, you know, kind of everything happens at once. So your life isn't just the good and then, like, the bad, that it's not black and white, that it's black and white, that the good and the bad happening all simultaneously, that you exist with all that all at once. So you're not just the good that you've done and the bad that you've done, you're the good and the bad that you've done. It's not an or situation, it's an and situation. And I thought that was such an interesting perspective, because a lot of people, like, that is kind of like that science fictional angle of just, like, I think maybe not just science fictional, maybe there's a, like, logical, like, science element to it, of just, like, believing that time isn't just this, like, simple, like, line, that, you know, it isn't, you know, just like in The Good Place, it's not a single line, it's a Jeremy bury me. If that's, I think that's what it is in The Good Place, but I'll leave it at that. Regardless, I just thought that was a fascinating conversation, because she was trying to say, like, right, you could still love Beth and miss her while still making more friends. Because we ended up finding out, like, oh, Yorick's only been with one person, Beth, because they met when he was pretty young. So she was like, huh, holy crap, you've only literally been with one person. Interesting. And then, like, it's like, right, but you can, still love and miss Beth while also, and, meet new friends. And then they proceed to do their thing. But then, obviously, the Amazons make their move in town. And I guess, legitimately, she thought, like, oh, man, this is going to be a end-all, be-all. Like, this is going to be easy, because for her, she was thinking, like, because she didn't know who she was dealing with. It's like, you're dealing with hardcore criminals. Like, like, these aren't just some people you can roll over. Like, these people have already, like, had things tough before, like, the apocalypse came. So she, Roxanne thought it was going to be, they were going to be easy pushovers, but, and she's kind of threatening, like, oh, blah, 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 you might want to run or something, and gave them a countdown. But then, like, the moment they're in position, everyone came out, because I was like, we know there's a lot of people here. And the way they kept looking in the distance, they were like, all right, making sure everyone's in position, and then did their thing. Obviously, this situation got super bloody on both sides. Some of the people we've come to know, obviously, getting killed. You could tell partway through it, the way Nora was looking at the situation. I honestly thought she was going to pop Roxanne a lot sooner. I thought she was going to kill Roxanne and be like, all right. But, like, no, she made it clear, like, when she started noticing the bloodshed, like, all the people they've come to know, it's like, right, these women, they're sacrificing themselves for someone like Roxanne. They shouldn't be, because she's a liar, she's a manipulator. And it's like, no, like, all this death, especially because there's some that have already died. Her daughter's having to witness this. And it's like, she ends up being like, resurrender, because they might have won, but would have been worth it at the end. Like, so many would have died. And so Sonia is off with Allison and York, and lucky, we have the encounter I was hoping we would, because who's following them? Hero, and Hero notices York, and York notices her. Luckily, Sonia only shot her in the arm, but runs over like, oh my god, like, how are you alive? It's like, I'm okay. And then, like, she lets him know about their mom, but it's like, who is this? It's like, no, this is my sister Hero. Poor Sonia, though, gets killed by one of the Amazons. And you have Hero saying, like, get out of here. If they find you, they will kill you. Like, the Amazons, they're trying to bring forward a new world. And, like, for York, it's like, what? You're not making any sense. And she kills Nicole to protect her brother. And in the aftermath of everything, because everything went super sideways, because for Nora, she was hoping things would be a little simpler. We go in there, we get what we need. It was supposed to be a place that could, like, because she's the one that suggested the place in the first place. She thought they could get in there, overrun everyone, and just take the place. Like, she didn't want to go in guns blazing like Roxanne did, but she lapsed when it came, to in front of, like, Roxanne. And so, like, so many women died, and it's like, for what? They didn't even take the place. And then, Hero tells her, like, right, the man, it was my brother. I don't know how, but he's alive. I haven't told anyone, because she paid attention to what, especially because she knows she can't tell Roxanne, because regardless, if any of the others, including Roxanne, found out it was her brother, like, it'd still be like, so what? He's a man. He needs to die. She knew the one person she could trust would be Nora, because Nora wouldn't tell her secret. She never said anything to anyone about who she really was, other than Roxanne. Roxanne, too, told everyone about the Mike situation. But I thought it was so interesting when Roxanne, like, is calling everyone out cowards. In particular, she's calling Nora a coward. And Nora's like, the fact is, the way you're treating these women and using them sounds exactly like, it's like, yeah, like, you're talking, like, the exact thing you're talking about you're fighting against. You are that. You're trying to break these women down until they're exactly what you want them to be. It's like, oh, sounds very familiar. And Nora knows, she's like, I gave up who I was to, be married and have kids to fit this particular role for so many years. So it's like, and Roxanne's just going on and being like, okay, you and Hero, get her out of my face. And Nora pulls the gun on Roxanne, and she's like, you don't have the guts to do it. Bam. puts her down. Like I said, I thought it was going to happen like back in town just to like solidify the whole, because I also felt like she was going to do it when Roxanne was storming off, but it's like, yeah, because it's also the thing of like, right, you're a liar, you're not who, like, they don't know who you really are. She's like, oh, they know who I am. I was like, no, they didn't, because if they ever found out the truth about you orchestrated this entire group being together, you being their savior to help you, like you were feeding off, you were angry and you needed, like, you wanted kinship and like almost like, I don't know if misery loves company is applicable in this case, but it's just like she was angry and she wanted to, because basically by having the women around her angry, she could strengthen the bonds between them, like they could unite over their anger, and so that's what she was hoping for. So when it's all said and done, Nora talks about the fact is like, yeah, the world will know us, but not by us changing ourselves. They'll know exactly who we are. It's like we be ourselves. We never have to be or change who we are. Like all we have to do is embrace. Because like she had talked about it before of like her anger being like, she's always been like a very angry person. So it's like she's just giving into that. Like I'm just going to be me. So I'm wondering if she no longer going to be Nora from now on. Is she going back to being Victoria again? But the Amazons are now under her charge, which I'm not too surprised. I figured that's where it was going to go, but it seems like her and Hero are in this together as probably like co-leaders potentially, or at least, you know, Nora's, I mean, or at the very least, Hero is going to be Nora/Victoria's like right hand, maybe. So that's I just figured it was always going to come down to this, because I figured even with Roxanne being the figurehead, granted, even despite all that Nora said, like Roxanne would never listen to her, and that was the whole point. Like you just never listen. Like I told you not to go, so but it's like you do whatever you want to because you don't care. You're just like, all these women, they died heroes. It's like they didn't have to die at all. We could have handled this a lot differently. We could have handled this very smart. Like a lot of these women charged full head into this battle, didn't even back down for a second because they were too busy like going by the motto and the situation that you've created. You fueled them with anger, so like all they want to do was kind of push ahead despite everything. Like we could have made a hefty retreat. People could have survived. People could have avoided getting injured. So, but under Nora's leadership, well, Victoria's leadership, it makes you wonder just how, well, once again, it's not about being anyone else but yourself. So what that looks like, you know, the Amazons are still alive and well. And I guess Nora kind of got what she wanted. She needed a safety net, but now it's a safety net that she's leading, and she's going to lead it her way, not Victoria's way by like breaking people down and making them into what she wants them. It's like, no, I want you to be you and only you. So you have that. And then, you know, luckily, 355 caught up with Allison and Yorick, and she heard everything from Allison, and Yorick is breaking down because he's like, my sister's been brainwashed, my mom's dead, and now Sonia, he's like, everything I do and everywhere I go and everyone I touch, they die, they hurt. He's like, none of this would happen with me if I had just died, none of that. I was like, that was honestly a heartbreaking thing to hear as he's breaking down like that, because it's like, this is all because of me. And then 355 opens up about the accident that took her family away from her. She talks about the fact is of like her grandma being a singer took her to a club. Her parents found out about it. Her dad was super pissed. Everyone got into the minivan and the van. And when they as they were arguing, a drunk driver ran into them, and her dad swerved, hit a tree at 60 miles per hour. And everyone was just so angry. And in that one moment, she was alone. So she knows what it's like to be the only one that survives. It's like, I found a way I survived, you know, and you will too. You'll find a way past this. And Yorick's like, because it's like, at the end of the day, you get to do whatever you want to now, Yorick, because I was following the president's order. If there's no more president, then you can go find Beth, live whatever life you want. But Allison's like, but he has to, and 355 stops him. He's like, no, I'm going to do this, but I'm not going to be like helpless or a pawn anymore. I need you to teach me how to defend myself. And he's like, I'll do it. She's like, okay, you know, like, you know, show me that you're ready and committed to this. So, but we do find out at the same time, like, well, earlier, the president as well as Beth run into Sam, which I'm like, oh, I'm surprised you made your way all the way there. I was like, who is that? Like, oh, I guess like after running into that teacher a couple episodes back, you just like went on your way. You're like, well, I'm going to make my way to like the Pentagon. You know, it's like, right, I might not have Hero with me, but it's like, right. I guess she figured, like, if anyone could, like, if she could get to her mom, if she could get to Jennifer, Jennifer will have the power and resources to save Hero from that whole situation, which I think at this point she's doubling down in that. But someone else shows up at that place, and it turns out that person is the CR, in particular the head of the CR. And it turns out they've captured Jennifer, Sam, and Beth, but Jennifer knows that they're like watching her, and we see 525 there with their boss, and I'm like, weren't you the one telling 355 not to get mixed? And you're like, right, I get it. That was a ploy. It's been a manipulation the entire time, like. Because I was thinking, like, wait, did she get brought back into the fold? Like, was she a hypocrite and went back on her words? It's like, no, everything was to push 355 in a certain direction. So that's why it's like, yeah, like, we've known where you were the entire time. We were just waiting to the right moment to move. Because when 355 woke up at one point with Allison, like, there was already one waiting for her. It's like, I knew things were going to come crashing down, even though she had destroyed the receiver or whatever last episode. I knew that they had a general enough idea where she was. They probably knew the entire time, so they knew the rough estimate of where she was, so they knew exactly where to come to get her. It's not like, oh, we were forever behind just catching up with you. It's like, no, they probably known the entire time since she got those supplies back in, Boston? Like, they've probably known since then. Because they are currently in Ohio right now. But it's like, yeah, let me know when she's on the move again. And so 355 and them, like, followed the beeper, and it leads into a fully, like, stat car, gave them all the resources they need to, like, keep samples from Yorick, so that Allison could do her thing. And it's like, cool. Like, Allison's like, is the CR like your family? And obviously she doesn't really say anything, because it's like, they know what we've been up to. They know they've been watching this the entire time. So it probably makes her think, like, right, like, makes her wonder, like, it's probably not just because I kept that thing going. She probably figures, like, the whole thing was a manipulation. But also, it's like, she has a very complicated relationship with the CR. I mean, she broke the device because she wanted to kind of be like, screw it, I'm going to leave that behind. But now it's like, oh, you're getting brought in from the cold. You, Yorick, and Allison, we're going to hit the facility where Beth, her mom, and Sam are. So definitely interesting spot to end things off. Like I said, season finale / series finale potentially. So where things currently stand, the show is still in that canceled state, but obviously there are some articles still referencing what I brought up before about potentially ending up on another streaming service, which I hope it does. Some thoughts were like maybe like HBO Max, just because of the that being under the Warner Brothers, this being a Vertigo comic, which is under the DC umbrella. So that could be a possibility. I could definitely see like a Netflix picking up. But once again, the problem is you'd also have to buy the rights for season 1 as well, which that could probably get costly. And I think there's also the thing about like Disney not being one to really like give up a lot of their properties in regards like that, especially after spending the money on the show. It's just like, once again, like if you didn't hear my discussion before, like I think Kevin and Mark on Fat Man Beyond a little bit while back talked about the show's situation just being a byproduct of COVID. Like, it just became expensive because they had to keep a lot of those actors on retainer. I mean, obviously this project has been like in development hell for a long time. Like, it's been something they've been trying to make for a long time, over a decade. It was going to be a movie first, and like different people have been attached to it. Like, there were just other contributing factors. So it's still up in the air on what the show's fate fully will be, but there's still hope, with fingers crossed, hoping that it ends up on some other streaming service. I hope it does. I don't want this show just to get a second season. I want it to, wherever it lands, to have a full life. Go for however long as it takes. If they're able to do it 3 seasons, cool. If they're able to do it in 5, even better. But whatever the case may be, I want this show to be able to go for as long as it needs to, because this is a very exciting end, but it's supposed to not just be the end, it's just supposed to be the beginning of this new chapter for so many characters, and I hope that it doesn't just end here. So I hope the show gets another shot, but we'll be keeping a close eye on this going forward. We'll ultimately have to wait and see what the full fate of this show is, whether or not things end up changing. Like I said, fingers crossed, hoping that they do. So we'll have to wait and see. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.